So if you have like a golden retriever puppy or maybe a mastiff, your very first instinct is probably to take them out to the backyard and just let them sprint until they drop.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
they have all that chaotic energy and, you just want to tire them out. But what if I told you that letting your giant 80-pound puppy run freely might actually be permanently destroying their skeleton?
It's wild, right? It completely defies our instincts. I mean, we look at this enormous, clumsy puppy with paws the size of dinner plates, and our brain automatically applies what we call the more myth.
Right, the more myth.
Yeah, we assume that because the animal is just so massive, the basic rules of dog care just, scale up. Like more food, more rigorous exercise, more space to roam.
And today's deep dive is really about dismantling that exact myth. We are unpacking an incredibly eye-opening transcript from the Dog Health Academy, specifically episode 17. We're looking into the unique lifelong health considerations for large and giant breed dogs. Because treating a Great Dane like a scaled-up beagle isn't just slightly incorrect, it fundamentally compromises the dog's architecture.
Right, and our mission today is to really deconstruct why that more mindset is so dangerous. We're going to map out the completely different biological reality of these large breeds, from puppyhood all the way to their senior years.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can, break the rules, we have to define what big actually means. Where is the biological line between a standard dog and a giant one?
Well, the baseline for a large breed starts at a projected adult weight of 50 to 100 pounds.
So we're talking the classic family dogs, your golden retrievers, Labradors, German shepherds, boxers, Weimaraners.
Yeah, the everyday large dogs, exactly. But the biology starts to get really extreme when we cross into the giant breed territory, and that is anything tipping the scales at 150 pounds or more.
Wow, okay. So that's the Great Danes, St. Bernards, Mastiffs, Irish Wolfhounds, Bernese Mountain Dogs.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the reason these specific weight thresholds matter so much is because mass essentially dictates time. The heavier the breed, the more compressed their biological timeline becomes.
And this is the bittersweet reality that, honestly, it just hurts to read. A small dog, like a Chihuahua, can easily live 15, sometimes over 18 years.
Yeah, they really stick around.
But a Great Dane, you might only get 7 or 8 years with them. I mean, a 7-year-old Chihuahua is merely middle-aged, just running around.
Yeah.
But a 7-year-old Labrador is already firmly considered a senior citizen.
It's a huge discrepancy.
Yeah.
And because their lifespan is compressed like that, proactive care isn't just like a nice bonus. It's an urgent necessity.
It's like large breeds are living their lives on fast forward when it comes to aging, but strangely in slow motion when it comes to growing up.
That is a perfect analogy. Fast forward aging, slow motion development. And that slow motion development is really the master key to everything we are going to talk about today.
Because that slowness completely changes how we handle them physically, right? I mean, if you're listening to this and looking at your 6-month-old Mastiff, you're probably thinking they look like an adult.
Oh, yeah. They take up half the couch.
Exactly. But internally, they are incredibly fragile.
Very fragile. Let's break down the timeline of the canine skeleton. A small breed dog's bones are typically fully formed and mature by 8 or 9 months.
Okay, pretty quick.
Right. But a large breed, like a Lamba, needs 12 to 18 months. And giant breeds, their skeletal structure might not finish developing until they are 2 full years old.
Wait, really? 2 full years?
Yeah.
Because a 2-year-old dog is universally considered a fully grown adult animal?
Visually, yes. But internally, their skeleton is basically still an active construction zone. The crucial mechanisms here are the growth plates.
And those are where new bone tissue is produced, right?
Exactly. They are zones of soft cartilage at the ends of the long bones in the legs. For up to 2 years, these plates remain open and soft.
So when you look at an 80-pound, 6-month-old Great Dane, you are seeing this massive animal walking around on a foundation of soft cartilage.
You are. And that soft cartilage is highly vulnerable to mechanical stress, which is why the standard veterinary exercise rules sound so extreme.
Like avoiding high-impact stuff.
Right. No jumping on or off furniture, no jumping out of vehicles, and absolutely no long-distance running on hard surfaces like concrete. Every single time that heavy puppy lands hard, shockwaves travel up their legs and smash into that soft, developing cartilage.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this. Because anyone who has raised a large breed puppy knows they're absolute chaos.
Oh, complete?
Wait, so you have an 80-pound, high-energy puppy that wants to run through walls, but you're telling me they can't jump or go for long runs? How do you tire them out without breaking them?
Well, what's fascinating here is our assumption that animals instinctively know their physical limits?
They don't.
They really don't. Puppies completely lack self-regulation. They will enthusiastically play until they cause themselves permanent damage. The human has to be the brakes.
So we just force them to rest all day?
No, the solution isn't forced rest, but smart activity. You pivot to things like shorter play sessions, leash walks on soft surfaces like dirt or grass.
And swimming, right. I imagine getting them in water removes the gravitational load.
Swimming is fantastic. It is entirely non-weight bearing. And then there's mental stimulation. Sniffing exercises, puzzle feeders, these can tire out a puppy faster than a sprint. And it keeps those immature growth plates perfectly safe.
Okay, so since we just established how delicate their developing skeletons are, we should probably talk about the literal weight being placed on those fragile bones.
Yeah, that's a huge factor.
Because you have to feed them without causing harm. How does food actually interact with those vulnerable growth plates?
This is where the more myth strikes again. The instinct is to look at a rapidly growing giant puppy and feed it as much as possible to build a big, strong dog.
Right, more food equals bigger dog.
But nutrition for large puppies isn't about just feeding them enough. It is entirely about controlling the rate of their growth. Growing too fast actively destroys joint development.
Wait, so if their skeleton is the scaffolding of a skyscraper, letting them grow too fast or get too heavy is like putting a heavy roof on before the concrete foundation has even dried.
Yes, that is exactly what happens. The sheer weight of their own body warps the cartilage before it can properly mature. This is why large breed puppy food is chemically balanced, specifically looking at calcium, phosphorus, and caloric density to actually slow this growth down.
It's so counterintuitive. You're feeding them specific food to stop them from growing quickly.
Exactly. And in adulthood, it becomes even more critical. Weight management is the ultimate joint protector.
Right, because extra weight isn't just a general health issue like we think of with humans.
No, not at all. For a large breed dog, extra weight is a highly specific mechanical stressor. Every unnecessary pound is a literal load bearing down on the hips, the elbows, and the knees.
Keeping a large breed lean is really the single most powerful tool an owner has to ensure long-term mobility, isn't it?
It absolutely is. But the challenge is, breeds like Labradors, St. Bernards, and Beagles are just notorious for having bottomless appetites.
Oh yeah, they will stare at you like they haven't eaten in a week after just finishing a bowl.
Right. And on top of that, you have the camouflage issue. Their thick fur often hides early weight gain from owners. You see the dog every day, so you don't notice they've packed on 5 pounds of fat until a vet literally points it out.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. Because we've established that every single pound and every jump matters over this compressed lifespan, how does an owner actually monitor all of this over, a decade?
It's tough because joint wear and tear is incredibly gradual. A dog might move just slightly differently at age 6 than they did at age 4.
It's that boiling frog thing again. We just don't notice the slow changes.
Exactly. You want to watch for subtle things. Hesitation on stairs, slowness getting up from a nap, or just kind of lagging behind on walks.
And there's a great pro tip from the source material about this. They recommend taking short, 30-second videos of your dog walking periodically.
Yes, that is such a brilliant strategy.
Right, because you can compare their gait over time and actually show your vet. You don't have to rely on a fuzzy memory of how they walked a year ago.
And this data-gathering mindset is really where digital tools come into play. The Dog Health Academy specifically mentioned the VitalPet app.
Ah, right, VitalPet. So what does this all mean for the listener? I assume we aren't talking about diagnosing your dog with your phone.
Definitely not. VitalPet doesn't evaluate joints or replace veterinarians. It's strictly an organizational tool for owners to track this massive amount of data.
Like puppy growth records, weight history, vet notes, meds, vaccines, all of it.
Exactly. Think about it. When the vet asks how your 7-year-old lab's mobility has been over the last 6 months, if you just rely on memory, it's vague. But with the app, the owner had actual data.
It's about creating a paper trail of their health, so the vet has the full picture, right?
Precisely. It makes the owner an informed, prepared partner. And the ultimate takeaway here is proactive versus reactive care.
Because catching it early changes everything.
Catching a mobility issue early gives you vastly more options to manage pain and maintain the dog's quality of life. If you wait until they can't walk, your options are severely limited.
Wow, okay. So just to recap the journey we've been on today, we started by realizing that these giant puppies are essentially fragile toddlers trapped in massive bodies.
Very fragile toddlers.
We talked about the critical importance of controlling their growth rate with specific nutrition, aggressively managing their adult weight to protect those joints, and obsessively tracking their aging process because their timeline is just so compressed.
It's a lot of responsibility, for sure. And, looking at all this really leaves me with a broader concept to chew on.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we spend so much time talking about how to manage the fragile joints and compressed lifespans of these giant breeds. We engineer their food, we restrict their movement, but it raises an important question. Knowing how biologically taxing it is to carry 150 pounds on a canine frame, how much of this fragility is just nature? And how much is the result of human beings selectively breeding dogs to be as massive as possible?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It really forces us to ask what our ethical responsibility is when we essentially design a dog's biology.
That is deeply fascinating and honestly a lot to think about. Next time you see a massive dog, you definitely won't look at them the same way.
Definitely not.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and we will catch you on the next one.